Morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are in the world today. Happy Sunday. I think it's fair to say it's Sunday in most places. I'm Kathleen Trigg Jones here with Mojo Streaming, and I am really happy to be joined by a special guest today. You're going to love her. You're going to love this story. And at the end of this, if you don't feel the need to get involved, then I would just say that something might be wrong. So we're going to have a check at the end and see if you've been swayed to really want to jump in and help this cause. Anika Salim, thank you so much for joining us today. Hello, you look beautiful.
Hello. Oh, thank you. So do you. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. And you're in Toronto.
I am. I'm just a little outside of Toronto, but I am in the GTA area.
Got it. And I'm in our New York streaming office. Anika is the director and the trustee for an organization called Free the Wild. You may have heard of Free the Wild just a few years ago, I think it was, right? When they made headlines when they successfully rescued a struggling elephant named Kavan. The world fell in love with Kavan. Kavan was not only rescued from this zoo where she had spent, or he had spent 44 years of his life, but they also liberated the entire zoo in Pakistan. The way this all came to be is that the Pakistani government was gifted this elephant from Sri Lanka. He lived in the zoo for 30 years. Free the Wild got involved, saw the conditions, realized that no elephant deserves to live this way. And they got behind this thanks to Cher, who is,
Yes.
everyone knows, the lovely Cher, who saw this egregious treatment and practice of capturing and closing an elephant who's a social being and decided to do something about it. I always say it takes one, right? And if someone has a voice as big as Cher's, then that's the equivalent of millions, and that's what happened. So in that case, Kavan was relocated to Cambodia Wildlife Sanctuary, where Kavan is doing well. But now we have another elephant that is really suffering. That Cher and her board of directors, Gina, Mark, our co-founders, and also Anika, are really passionate about trying to help. And this is Lucy. So there's a Free Lucy movement going on right now, and that's what we're going to talk about today, as well as all the other causes and efforts that Free the Wild has gotten involved in. We'll get into some of that a little later. But let's start out just talking about Lucy. Who is
Sure.
Lucy?
Lucy is an Asian elephant. She came from Sri Lanka she came from Sri Lanka at the age of 1. She was purchased from Edmonton Valley Zoo. So Lucy has been living in Edmonton Valley Zoo for 44 years. She was alone up until, I believe, for the first 12 years in Edmonton Zoo. And then they brought in an African elephant who stayed on for a while. And then I believe her name was Samantha. And she was taken away to a breeding program. So Lucy has been left in Edmonton Valley Zoo. There has been a long going campaign before Free the Wild came on the scene. There was a lot of voices, a lot of grassroots campaigns going on, social media, Twitter. Her voice was growing, but I think it was falling, on deaf ears for the people who could bring this change, meaning the zoo director, the mayor, the city council, until right after we finished up and wrapped up Kavan, Lucy was brought to Cher's attention. She was brought to our attention, and as we digged a little deeper, we just saw, what a sad state of affairs Lucy's life has been. Half the year she's housed in a barn. It's not suitable for her. No elephant should live in solitary confinement. They're very social beings. She has been mismanaged in her early years up until maybe the last 2 or 3 years. So she has been mismanaged. And when I mean mismanaged, they used to make her do circus tricks. She has been, her caregivers still walk around with a bull hook. She obeys because she fears of what would happen from that bull hook. She was made to paint, meaning her trunk would be dunked in to some kind of paint, which I'm sure has contributed to her medical illnesses. And she was made to play instruments, a piano, a harmonica. So, she's lived a very, very sad life. If you take a look, if anyone takes a look at Lucy, you can see videos of her on our website or on YouTube. You'll see where she's housed most of the year, and it looks just like a fishbowl. And she just has like this vague look on her face of sadness.
Yeah. I did do that. Even before our interview, I went back and looked at pictures again, and I read a caption that said she's been called the saddest elephant alive. And and you can see it in her eyes. She just looks like she has no hope, no reason to continue to live. And it's really sad. Why though? Why should people want to get involved in this? Why is it wrong for an elephant to live this way in a zoo? We visit zoos. We've seen many elephants in captivity around the world, in sanctuaries and in zoos where you can visit. But what makes this so different?
That's a really good question. So to put things into perspective, elephants can walk up to 50 kilometers a day. A zoo cannot provide that kind of space for an elephant. If you always see elephants in the wild, they're in herds. They stay with their family. Lucy has been without a family for the last 44 years. The weather conditions in Winnipeg winters are brutal there. It's bitter cold. Sometimes she's made to walk out in the snow. It's just ridiculous how they've made her live. She doesn't have access to fresh water either. They give her water through a hose. So when they close up for the day, I don't believe she has any water. I believe her diet is consisted a majority of hay, and that's not the right diet for her. She needs lots of fruits and vegetables. And I think because of the weather conditions there in Edmonton, they're very limited on what they can give her. So because of that,
I was going to ask you just to juxtapose this next to what an elephant should have. What would be an ideal living environment for an elephant? They're not cold weather creatures, right?
That's right. So she's from Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka is tropical weather. Cambodia is tropical weather. Pakistan is tropical weather as well, but the living conditions, I'm just going to go back to Kavan, were horrific. He needed to get out of there, and we feel very strongly that Lucy needs to get out of there as well as soon as possible. Elephants in captivity have shorter lives. It has been proven that elephants do pass away faster living in confinement rather than being in the wild. They can live up to 70, 80 years old or more. We've seen this. If you could see Kavan in Islamabad and Kavan now in Cambodia, completely different. Once we brought him to Cambodia, the next day he was entirely different. Elephants show stress when they're in captivity. Lucy shows nothing. She just stands there. She just stands there sad and just alone and depressed. She looks it.
She does.
I don't know how the zoo can just, it's about conservation. If they want to do right by Lucy, they really need to. They keep saying they want to do right for her, but she's without a swimming pool. Elephants love to soak in the water. She doesn't have access to mud. They love to roll around in the mud. I know she has a sand pit to dust herself off in, but that's indoors as well. She has no enrichment even in her barn, like where she stays half the year. Nothing. I think she has maybe one tire. She doesn't. It's empty.
Right.
The trees are painted on the wall. Like there's nothing.
How did you all even learn about Lucy, and what inspired Cher? I wish Cher could be here, and maybe she'll agree to come on and do an interview with us at some point.
Yeah.
Um, Not that you're not amazing. I'd love to have the both of you
No,
on.
that's fine.
Well,
She's great.
right. But what inspired her to get involved, and how did you all even hear about Lucy? And I would imagine Lucy's, there's probably many Lucys, right?
Oh, there's many Lucys out there. There are many Lucys out there, but we can only do it one at a time. It's very, very intense. It's very, I don't want to say time consuming, but it is. There's a lot of things you have to factor in: country, where they're being kept, what are the laws, what government body is in charge. There's a lot of hoops you have to go through just to put the jigsaw puzzle together to where we can be like, okay, now we can start to think about a strategy. So, like I said, we wrapped up Kavan. It went viral all over the place because Cher actually, gave her word at the time to say, if Kavan is free, I will go to Pakistan and I will accompany him to the sanctuary, which she did. Once we were done that, people on Twitter started just, Lucy, 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 Lucy's the next person. Because, like I said, there have been grassroots campaigns going on that people have been trying to move Lucy's case. And because it hasn't really got, they go to city council meetings, they do petitions, they do protests, but it hasn't gotten to where it needs to go. So once the sheriff said Lucy's next, we started putting things together to strategize. And that's when Cher wrote to the mayor of Edmonton, Mr. Don Iverson, and that letter went to everybody. So it went to the city council, it went to the director of the zoo. So basically, we have been communicating with the director of the zoo, the founder, one of our founders. She's a lovely lady, Gina. She has been in communication with Gary, the zoo director, going back and forth. So Cher's offer right now, the hesitation, so I'm just going to backtrack a little bit. The hesitation with the zoo has been that Lucy has an unknown respiratory illness that they haven't found out what it is. And they feel that if she was moved, the stress would kill her. But no one has...
That she's been there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about a move up the street. We're talking about all the way to the United States, correct?
Correct. So the drive would be about, I think, 2 or 3 days to Tennessee Sanctuary. But in order to do that, she has an annual, Lucy gets an annual medical checkup every year. But because of COVID, the pandemic, it has been made, it's made travel restrictions really, really difficult. So what the zoo director has told us is that her medical for this year will be in the fall. Right. And what what Free the Wild has offered, as we have said that we can send down a medical team to diagnose Lucy's illnesses. It's not only that she's 1,000 pounds overweight. She has arthritis in her joint arthritis. She's been seen having colic, lying down, slapping her trunk on her stomach. She has a lot of her feet need proper, her nails need trimming. There's a lot of stuff. Her diet needs to be changed.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
Is it not possible to keep her, and remind me where she is right now?
Edmonton. She's in the Edmonton Valley Zoo.
Which
Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay.
In Canada. Yeah.
Okay. And so it would take 3 days to drive her. I would imagine that would be a pretty rough trip for her. But is it not possible to keep her where she is, but put this same amount of attention into bettering her environment, putting the money behind, getting her some support there so she's not alone, bringing in other elephants? I don't even know if they can, and you'll have to talk about that as well. Can they even, at this age, would she welcome other elephants into the mix? But would that be a better solution to, instead of trying to move her, which she may not make that move?
Well, that's the question. This is what the zoo has said. So we need to get in there to find out exactly what is going on with Lucy, with her respiratory. Is it as severe as they say it is? Because they haven't explored what's going on with her. So the traveling for her it would be stressful for anybody. It would be stressful for any animal that's been lived locked up for 40 years. They said the same thing with Kavan. He'll die on the way. Kavan was fine. We wouldn't just take Lucy out. There's a progression of what stages would happen. First, we need to get in there with the experts, find out what's going on with her, find out if she's fit to travel. If it comes back that Lucy's not fit to travel, we're also here to help. We're there to give recommendations how to make her life comfortable in her environment. If they're truly going to retire her, they need to retire her the proper way. She needs a pool. She needs access to mud. We don't want to add any more elephants to a zoo. They're not meant to be in captivity, especially not in Edmonton. The weather conditions, I'm almost certain is why she has the arthritis and the respiratory, as well as the painting dunking her trunk in. But the whole point of this is to actually figure out what can we do for Lucy, because they keep having these annual checkups and they keep giving her all these kind of concoction medicines that we don't even know if it's the right medicine for her. We want to really aim for what's going on, take her oxygen levels, find out how much oxygen can she have? Is she able to make this move?
Yeah. Now you want to bring in your own expert, right, to make that decision, because I believe they've had doctors that have been treating her that have said she really can't travel, but
Yeah.
you would rather bring in a neutral
Yes.
expert to really do a deep dive and figure out what's really going on with Lucy, and would some of those health problems that she's experiencing right now in the cold, would they be made better by the mere fact that she would no longer be in that environment and in a healthier environment where she's meant to be?
Absolutely. So we want to bring in an unbiased team. We have we have proposed and given all the details of the vet, their backgrounds. I'm not able to share who it is as yet, but everything is under review right now. So what we're waiting for is for the zoo to come back to us to say, yes, send in your team, and then we're ready to go.
Right. How much power does Free the Wild yield in a situation like this? Are they listening? Are they responding? I understand the Shares even met with city government officials.
Share has spoken freely to city government using her social media platform. So we have been communicating with the zoo. Share expresses herself or writes to the zoo. The time when Share will step in is once we know where Lucy is. If Lucy's free to travel, Share will accompany Lucy and take her, like she did with Kavan, to the sanctuary.
Right. So how long are we talking? If and because elephants have a pretty long lifespan, right? And under normal circumstances, right now
Yes.
Lucy is in her 40s.
Yeah.
Okay.
She is. I believe she's 44, 45. I'm pretty sure. So in captivity, like I said, their life is shortened. And now with her other illnesses, we don't know. We don't know what's going on with Lucy. And that's what we need to find out. We need the city of Edmonton to do right by her. Toronto here closed down our elephant exhibit and retired our elephants because they knew that keeping them in these conditions and housing them indoors, they're not meant for indoors for more, it's
6 months of a year at minimum indoors and not being for a while. But
they're really wild.
Right. Now by comparison, Kavan, tell me what his life is like now. Is he?
Oh my God. He's a totally different elephant. If you would see Kavan in Islamabad, Pakistan, when we saw him, majority of his life he was chained. And he would be chained by all four legs. His mahout would keep him in an empty swimming pool, and he would sell his food to the public to feed him so he could piggyback off Kavan's back and make extra money. Kavan suffered mentally completely. He would sway his head back and forth. If you looked at him, he would never stop. As soon as his feet touched down in Cambodia, the next day we went to go see him, he wasn't swaying. And he did very little swaying in the beginning, and now I believe he's not swaying at all. He's actually been released into his jungle. So
And
he
is he
has
actually assimilating with the other elephants? And
he there's two other females there, so they're free to do what they want. So it's not forced. The sanctuary that Kavan is focuses on ecotourism, so there's no touching, there's no riding, there's no nothing. An elephant can be an elephant. You will go there, you will visit the elephants, and you'll watch them in their natural habitat. So basically, in Kavan's his jungle now, the girls can come in if they choose to, and they can do what they want if they choose to. But nothing is forced.
right, right. And that's an ideal situation. I do, Annika, want to get into some of the other causes that Free the Wild cares about, because I know there's a lot that your organization does other than freeing Kavan and hopefully Lucy. But I first want to find out if anyone has any questions. We really want to always be interactive with these interviews and give them an opportunity to ask anything that they may be wondering. Are there any questions before we move into some of the other things that Free the Wild does? Let's see, we have about a handful of people on joining us live right now, but we'll move on. If anyone has a question though, please put it in the chat and I'll bring you. You don't have to share your camera if you don't want. If you want to, you can, but just raise your hand and I'll bring your question in. I can ask it if you want. But in the meantime, Annika, let's talk about some of the other things that Free the Wild does care about, that you're passionate about, the other efforts that you're involved in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have other projects that we're actively working on as well, besides Lucy. We're currently also back. We have a case with Pakistan again, but in a different city. It's the city of Karachi, where there are 4 African elephants that are being kept in really, really bad conditions. The issue of the elephants, they all have stereotypical behavior where they're actually not just swaying their head, they're like that.
And what does that mean?
Like they're suffering in their habitat, like psychologically they're checked out. So they're just, and we have seen that, all the mahouts there, they walk around with bull hooks and they have bull hooked them. They make the girls give rides. All 4 girls give rides. They were actually poached in Africa. Whoever the dealer was who did this and brought them, it was dirty. They killed the mother and they stole the babies. And then they brought the babies to Pakistan. So since then, they've been suffering. They stand in their own urine and feces. They're chained up to 15 hours a day. One of them is suffering from foot rot. Now, if you know what foot rot is, it's the worst pain that an elephant can have. It's when their feet are septic and it's like their foot is rotten. So most times you'll see Malika standing like a tripod, and that's very dangerous because of her weight. If she falls, she won't get up. So what Free the Wild did was we had offered to send, we weren't asking to take the elephants, but we were offering medical intervention immediately for all of them and an ongoing to find out and treat them. So basically the government body there is called KMC Metropolitan. They had agreed, but then all of a sudden they put a full stop to say, no, we don't want you coming. You're making us look bad. You're disgracing us. You're trying to take away our elephants. So I think they just kind of got scared because we had succeeded with Kavan in Islamabad, which is the capital city. So we have an ongoing court case going on there, okay, which looks promising. We have another case of a gorilla who lives in Thailand in Pata Zoo. Now, the conditions for this zoo is situated in a shopping mall. So you can imagine, she's never been outside. Really? She's never touched earth. She's never had sun on her face. She's never touched grass. If you see her conditions, she lives in a dark, what they've done is her enclosure is like a dark cave. So it's all rock. Mm. She has nobody with her. She's by herself. It's been over 30 years. her and other primates. So we're trying to get them out. Her conditions there's no enrichment. They've given her a television and a tire to swing on, and that's how she's been living in a shopping mall for for 30 years.
Where is the government in all this, and what is the government's responsibility? Because obviously we know we can't trust man, right?
Yeah.
To protect wildlife. That's just a given. But where is the government?
A good question. Yeah. So once we started digging and strategizing and putting the pieces together, we came to a revelation that Thailand has no laws for captivity of animals and how they're kept. So everything that this gentleman is doing is legal. He's not breaking any laws. So our strategy is that we're trying to speak with the owner of the mall and have him, really just let us take her to a sanctuary. We've already set up a sanctuary. The Espinal Foundation is working with us, partnered with us in this. They're a great organization. They have rehabilitated gorillas back into the Congo, and that's what Bua Noa would get, a rehabilitation. And we've also offered to take all the animals there and send them to sanctuaries.
Right. Okay.
Her situation is
just a gorilla there.
Yeah, it's very sad. Her situation's very sad. There's a rat infestation. The shopping mall is in a horrible condition. It's so outdated.
Can I ask you though, for a gorilla or Lucy, or I guess we saw with Kavan as a case study, but can an animal who's never lived in the wild, never lived outside of this cage or this environment, can they successfully move into that environment without being a harm to people as well as survival skills themselves?
Okay, so like I said, with Kaban, there's no contact. So he does have a caregiver that he trusts because he is used to human contact with his mahout because he has lived in captivity for so long. For Bua Noa, she does have a keeper. So she has a trusting relationship with the keeper that comes in there to feed her. And she would be able to trust someone else. The process is with the experts on how they rehabilitate. We have seen another case with the Espinal Foundation where there was another gorilla there for over 30 years that they actually just released back into the wild after 5 years of rehabilitation. So it's not like that they would take Bua Noa and put her in the jungle and say, okay, you're free to go. It's all sanctuary and protected areas. Obviously, they would train her slowly, and they would never release her without fully knowing that, okay, she's in a good place. How long it takes.
Right.
But she needs to meet Mother Earth.
Yeah.
There's no reason she should live in a shopping mall.
Right. And I think that becomes the question, life versus quality of life. And I know I was just reading another article where the Jane Goodall Institute got involved. And at first they were behind your efforts. And now Jane Goodall has kind of switched her stance on it as well because of the medical evaluations with Lucy and just saying that Lucy's not fit really to be able to travel. But again, it goes back to life, just sustaining life versus a quality of life. And would Lucy be better standing with her sad eyes, not moving at all? Or would the effort to free Lucy be worth it, even if she didn't make it, because she's not really living right now?
No, it would be a shame if we didn't try. Mm-hmm. We're not going to give up on Lucy. We're not going to say she's better off at the zoo. We want to first know what is her bill of health. We're bringing in an unbiased team to look at both sides of the coin, not just our side. So we want everything that we're doing is in the best interest for Lucy, not the best interest for humans.
But what happens if those experts come in and they also conclude that she can't make this journey?
We can accept that. We can totally accept that. Free the Wild's mission is to help animals in captivity, either by having them released into a sanctuary or give them a proper quality of life. So our experts will make the recommendations. We will help the zoo get on their feet to help Lucy. They've had all these years to make her life better, meaning give her a proper environment. She's been there her whole life. And, they keep upgrading the zoo facilities for visitors, but not her enclosure.
Right. And that's the other question. So we spoke about the government's responsibility, but can we educate people? I guess that's part of what we're trying to do with Mojo Streaming, educate people on the responsibility that we all have as well. Every time you visit an animal that's not in a great environment, and that could mean circuses, that could mean zoos, that could mean malls. But
Yes.
when you contribute to that, are you really contributing to the problem?
Yeah, you are. Straight. I'll be brutally honest. I really feel you are. An animal that is forced to perform in a circus, being trolleyed along in a truck, only to come out at times where they're to perform is not living its best quality of life. And I always say to everybody, circuses hurt animals. They don't help them. Um, they beat them into submission. If you ever see background, they beat them into submission. They chain them. Um, they 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 put fear in them. I've seen them. They chain them. They make them ride. They exploit them to a pulp.
Right.
And even you could have the best facility of a zoo, but it will never be a natural environment. And I've said this again, we've all felt the pandemic and the lockdown and COVID. Now, we have gone stir crazy. Imagine the animals living their whole life in this little box.
Sure. Yeah, I can't
So,
imagine. And that puts it in perspective because I think, I just read a report earlier also that was talking about how many people are suffering from
yeah,
both anxiety and depression just from
yes,
being held captive over this
yeah,
past, imagine 30 something
yeah.
years. It's just really, really sad. But what are people to do though? So, you have children, you want to enjoy wildlife, you want to go to a zoo or to some place where you can see wildlife and up close, but how would it what
How
would
could,
the solution
yeah,
be? Are you saying we should never go to a zoo, a carnival anymore that has these animals? We should not go to the circus. We should not go to the zoo.
I, yeah, I would never promote anyone to go to a zoo or Marineland or a circus. I wouldn't promote it. I mean, to each his own, but I will always raise the bar and educate because these places aren't doing the best interest for the animal. They're doing the best interest for human entertainment. Bottom line, you pay a ticket to be entertained to see these animals. Parents can do a lot of things with their children. They can go on a vacation. There's so many good facilities of just do your homework. Ecotourism areas where you can go to Cambodia Wildlife Sanctuary, like in Thailand, with the Elephant Nature Park. There are so many sanctuaries out there. There's Scott Global Sanctuary for Elephants. There's so many people doing such good things to liberate these animals, and we need to put our money there. They need to be free.
Yeah, that's a tough mindset to change, but together perhaps we can. And the more celebrities like Cher that get involved,
Yes.
it will make you realize this is not just a bunch of crazy people who are asking you to care about animals when children are suffering. They're two different things. We're saying that these animals deserve a better life, and we're contributing to it. Someone named
Yep.
Mira actually chimed in. I don't know if Mira, do you want to actually come on and ask your question? Let's see, she may not. Well, I'll say, and if you want to pop on, then just raise your hand and we can share your camera. But she mentioned that Lucy was given a blanket at the Edmonton Zoo that they won't even put on her. And then her question is, how can we trust the zoo to take better care of Lucy in her retirement when she's no longer making money for them? And that's an excellent point. If the argument is that she should not be made to do these things, painting and drawing and using, spraying water and all these things. Well, if that means that she's not supposed to be on display, well, then she's not making money for them any longer. Is there a concern that they would then really be abusive to her?
I can answer that, and I have heard the story. This was, I don't know how, it was a while back that I believe someone had gifted a blanket for Lucy, and the zoo refused. The zoo will refuse because they don't want to show as being weak. Um, they won't admit to their mismanagement of Lucy, and by accepting a blanket to keep her warm proves that. So I'm going to go back to Cher to say that, it took us 5 years to liberate Free Kavan. And during that whole time, we were eyes on Kavan. And if it turns out that Lucy is unable to move, we will always, Free the Wild is committed to see and check on Lucy for the remainder of her life, to give recommendations, to make sure that they follow through. Cher's pressure has been a huge spotlight for Lucy, huge. Her story has gone viral since Cher had started tweeting about Lucy. And Cher is a beautiful woman, compassionate, and she won't leave. She's a fighter. Cher is a fighter. She won't leave, and neither would Free the Wild founders Gina or Mark or myself or Sagan or Jen leave Lucy's side. There are a lot of people, if you go on social media, there's a lot of people checking in on Lucy, protesting for Lucy, groups for Lucy. So I don't think anyone's going anywhere, and Edmonton knows that.
Good, good. So that brings us to actually someone. There's another one here, Nancy Kitka, I believe, and she mentioned another article, which unfortunately, Nancy, we probably can't click on that link to get into the article. But if you want to ask a question or you want to come on, feel free. Just raise your hand. I do want to ask you, you said that so many people have gotten involved. Cher is just one person, but to found this organization is tremendous. But how could people get involved if others want to join you in the fight for Lucy or any of the other causes that you're behind?
Well, Free the Wild is very active on our social media platforms. We do interactive things and ideas for the public. As today, we're having an international run or walk day where you get sponsors to sponsor you, and all the money that you raise goes towards Free the Wild's projects and process. Every dollar that we raise goes towards the animals. All our work, including Cher's, Mark, Gina, Sagan, or Jen, we all volunteer our time. We don't take a penny from that. So every dollar or penny we raise goes 100% for the care of these projects that we have. We have also a shopping. If you want to buy a Free the Wild swag, we have, stuff that you can buy if or you can donate, participate in our activities. About a month and a half ago, we had a photography contest for people to join, and raise funds for Free the Wild, submit your wildlife photography. So we keep trying to put fresh ideas in there. We don't want to just ask for money. We just we want to raise awareness, but also have fun too.
Right.
Right. It's all sad, when we talk about these stories and stuff, but we need a break sometimes too ourselves.
Sure. And also like-minded people just need to come together, because something powerful happens when others who also are humanitarian really care about the environment, care about something other than ourselves. When you find yourself surrounded by those people, then ideas are inspired, and it's just feel good work. So
we always ask our people who follow us, if you have an idea, share it with us. If there's a case that, you're our eyes and ears, we can't be everywhere. If you have a campaign that you're working on and you need some help, message us. We have so many blogs on there. If you want to start a campaign, we tell you the tools and stuff that you can use to start your campaign, and what you can do and how you can take it to another level. So we're not just about projects. We try to do things all around. We do documentaries, we do blogs, we do our posts. We try to update our followers on all our social media platforms at all times.
Very nice. Can you give some contact details now? What is your website? How will people find you on social media as well as the website?
Yeah, so if you go to www.freethewild.com, That is our website. And just go through the website itself if you just want to donate. Thank you. But there's a lot of good stuff that's interactive for our followers. We are on Twitter as Free the Wild. We are also very active on Instagram as Free the Wild.
Okay, got it.
And if you want to check us out, we also have our Shares Elephant Lift documentary. You can see also the preview on YouTube if you want to just see it, but check it out. You'll see Kavan's successful relocation.
Very nice. Now we need to work on Lucy's.
Yes,
Start
she's a priority.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Annika Salim, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a very enlightening conversation, and I wish you the absolute best with Lucy and with the others. If there's anything we at Mojo Streaming can do, it goes without saying. Please lean on us. We're family,
Thank you.
and this is our mission as well, to make the world a better place by freeing the wild. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope maybe we can have another conversation with the rest of my team.
we would love that, actually. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Please keep us updated. So anytime there's any new developments, we want to know about it. We'll get that out to the people, as well as if you have events that are going on, let us know.
Yeah.
You said today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So anyone who wants to get involved, please visit the website. Thank you again for all of your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you for opening your heart for those who can't speak for themselves.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a great Sunday.
You have a better Sunday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.